There's something wrong with the pond at Bowering Park. Not the ducks, not the water, not the reflection. I first noticed it because my daughter pointed it out. We were walking around the pond just before sunset. She was 6 and she'd gotten ahead of me, stopping at the edge to watch the ducks. "Dad," she said. I looked up. "Why isn't that man moving?" There was someone standing on the opposite side of the pond. A man in a dark jacket, completely still. I waved. He didn't wave back. I assumed he was watching the ducks, so we kept walking. Then my daughter grabbed my hand. "Dad?" "What?" "He's not over there." I looked across the pond. The man was gone. I laughed and told her we better head home. She wouldn't move. She was staring at the water. I looked down. Our reflections were in the pond. Mine, hers, and behind us, standing several feet away, was the man. I spun around. Nothing. Just trees. I looked back at the water. He was still there. Closer now. His face was blurry beneath the surface, but I could make out his mouth. He was smiling. I pulled my daughter away from the pond. We left. I didn't tell my wife what happened. I convinced myself that it was some weird reflection, a trick of the light, maybe someone standing behind us at an angle. I forgot about it until 3 nights later. My daughter woke up at 2:13 a.m. She was standing beside my bed. "Dad, what is it?" I saw the man again. I sat up. "Where?" She pointed toward the bedroom window. I looked. Nothing. Then she said something that made my stomach drop. "He's in the pond." I asked her what she meant. She said she'd been dreaming about Bowering Park. In the dream, she was standing beside the pond, but the park was empty. No cars, no people, no birds, and the pond was completely black. She said she could see dozens of people standing underneath the water, all of them staring upward, and among them was a man. She said she had been pointing at something. "What?" She shook her head. "He was pointing at you." I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I searched online for old photographs of Bowering Park. I found one from decades ago. I showed a group of children beside the pond. I zoomed in. There was a man standing behind them. Same jacket, same posture, same face. I thought the photograph had been taken recently. It hadn't. The date was printed underneath. I closed the computer. Then I noticed something. One of the children in the photograph looking directly at the camera. A little girl. She looked terrified. I recognized her. She was my daughter. Same face, same hair, same coat she had been wearing when we visited the park. I called my wife. Before she answered, my daughter screamed from the backyard. I ran outside. She was standing beside her, a little plastic padding pool, staring into the water. I grabbed her and I pulled her back. The pool was empty, but the bottom was wet. I went across it in muddy fingerprints. There were 4 words: "Bring her back tonight." I moved away from St. John's 2 weeks later. I never went to Bowering Park. My daughter's 18 now. She doesn't remember any of it. At least that's what she tells me. Last night, she sent me a photograph. She said she found it on her phone and didn't know where it came from. It showed her standing beside a pond. Behind her was a man in a dark jacket. She was smiling. He wasn't. I stared at the picture for a long time. Then I noticed the date in the corner. October 14th, 2026. That's tomorrow. And underneath the photograph, someone had typed, "You left something here." I didn't tell my daughter what the photograph meant. I didn't tell her about the date. I didn't tell her about the message. I simply called her to ask where she was. At home. Stay there. A pause. Dad? Just stay there. She laughed nervously. You're freaking me out. Locked the doors. Another pause. Think quietly. Dad, I already did. I drove to her apartment. The entire way there I kept thinking about the photograph. October 14th, tomorrow. But something bothered me more than the date. The photograph showed my daughter standing beside the pond. She was 18, but behind her was the same man I'd seen when she was 6. The same face, the same coat, the same impossible smile. And he wasn't standing beside the pond. He was standing in it, up to his chest, as if the water were deeper than it should have been. When I arrived, my daughter was waiting outside. She looked pale. You need to see something. She led me upstairs. Her phone was on the kitchen table. There were photographs on it. Hundreds. All taken at Bowering Park. Some were old, some were new. Some showed the pond in the summer. Others showed it covered in ice. But every photograph had the same thing in it. The man. Sometimes he stood behind the pond. Sometimes he stood among the trees. Sometimes he was barely visible in the distance. And sometimes he was standing directly behind whoever had taken the picture. I asked where they came from. I didn't take them. Then who did? I don't know. She swiped to the next picture. It showed a family. A mother, a father, a little boy standing beside the pond. The photograph looked decades old. Then she zoomed in. The father was me. I stopped breathing. It was the photograph of me as I look now. It was me. Exactly how I look today. Same jacket, same face, same watch. I looked at the date. October 14th, 2026. Tomorrow. My daughter swiped again. Next picture showed the same thing. Except the family was gone. Only the man remained. Then another. The man was closer. Another. Closer. Another. Until the final photograph showed nothing but his face. His eyes were opened, looking directly into the camera. My daughter locked the phone. I think he wanted me to go back. No. He kept leaving things. What things? She pointed toward the hallway. There was a puddle on the floor. I stared at it. It was perfectly round. No footsteps led toward it. No footprints led away. I crouched down. The water smelled like mud, like the pond. Then something moved beneath its surface. A finger. I stumbled backwards. My daughter screamed. The puddle rippled. Words appeared in the water, not written, not carved, just reflected somehow. One of you stays. Then the water went still. My daughter looked at me. What does that mean? I didn't answer. Because I already knew. That night I stayed awake beside her bedroom door. At 2:13 a.m. I heard her whispering. I opened the door. She was sitting on the floor, beside the window. Who were you talking to? She didn't turn around. Grandma. My mother has been dead for 11 years. I walked towards her. Sweetheart? She finally looked at me. Her eyes were full of tears. Dad, she whispered. She says you have to go back. I felt something cold touch the back of my neck. I turned towards the window. The glass was covered in condensation. From the outside, someone written a message across it. You were never supposed to leave. Then came 3 knocks, not on the window, from the inside. 3 slow knocks against the floor beneath us. My daughter grabbed my arm. The floorboards creaked. Something underneath it moved. Once, twice, then stopped. I pulled her away from the window. We left the apartment before sunrise. I drove towards Bowering Park. I know how that sounds. I know. But there was nowhere else to go. The entire drive, my daughter said nothing. When we reached the park, the sun hadn't come up yet. The gates were closed. We parked away. The park was completely silent. No traffic, no wind, no birds. We walked towards the pond. Halfway there, my daughter stopped. Dad. I turned. She was staring at the trees. What? There are people watching us. I looked. At first, I saw nothing. Then the trees moved. Not from the wind. There were faces between them. Dozens of faces. Men, women, children, all staring at us. All completely motionless. Then they stepped forward, one by one, into the darkness. My daughter whispered. They're scared. We reached the point. The water was perfectly black. There was no reflection in the sky. No reflection of the trees. No reflection of us. Then the man surfaced, not from the edge, from the middle. He rose slowly from beneath the water until he was standing waist deep. He looked at me, then my daughter, and finally he smiled. You left something here, he said. His voice was mine. I couldn't speak. He pointed at the water. I looked down. There were hundreds of reflections beneath the surface. People who weren't standing beside the pond. People who had been there before. And among them, there was a version of me. I remembered. Suddenly, completely. I had been here before. Not when my daughter was 6. Not years ago, when I was a child. I remember holding my father's hand. I remember the pond. I remember the man. And I remembered what my father had done. He had pushed me away from the water. Then he had stepped into it. I have forgotten until now. My daughter squeezed my hand. Dad? The man in the pond pointed at her. She remembers. My daughter looked at me. I do. I stared at her. What do you remember? She began to cry. Everything. The man smiled wider. Then the water behind him began to fill with faces. And my daughter whispered the words I've been trying not to hear. He's not taking me. She looked at me. He's taking you. Behind us, a park gate slammed shut. And somewhere beneath the black water, my father's voice called my name.